There's a moment where things are finally working, but instead of relief, you feel pressure to stay exactly the same. But quietly, that pressure starts affecting what you earn, what you're trusted with, and how safe staying the same really is. And it happens to people who are doing everything right. Most people think the real danger is failing too early, but there's another risk no one warns you about: succeeding too easily. You build a version of yourself that works, people rely on it, and suddenly changing feels risky, so you compromise. You delay. You tell yourself there's no reason to change, and without noticing, your future success is being negotiated by a past version of you. That pattern shows up clearly in how Taylor Swift erased a version of herself that was already winning.
Is when you think Tim McGraw, I hope you think.
At the height of her power, she did something most people only do when they're cornered. She erased herself. Not loudly, not recklessly, quietly, deliberately, on her own terms. That decision wasn't impulsive, it wasn't creative restlessness, and it wasn't rebellion. Because the real risk wasn't whether she could succeed again, it was what would happen if she kept succeeding as the same person. To understand why she did what she did, you have to look at the moment just before the decline, when everything was still working, and the cost of staying the same first became visible. That moment arrived at the end of the Red Era. This is The Wealth Project, where we don't do celebrity gossip, we decode celebrity success. We break down the psychology, mindset, and identity patterns behind the famous and powerful. If this way of thinking about wealth resonates, you're in the right room. The reset before decline. By the end of the Red Era, Taylor Swift had already won. Massive sales, sold-out tours, cultural relevance. But a limit was forming. Country radio defined her. Awards followed categories. The industry had decided who she was, and success only came as long as she stayed that version. Which meant if she ever wanted to do something different, she'd have to get permission. And by the time permission arrived, the momentum would already be gone. Every win she experienced reinforced the same expectations and made it harder to move. And that's the danger. So she didn't wait for permission. Instead of easing into pop, she staged a clean break. 1989 wasn't a trial balloon. It was a full identity reset. New sound, new look, new narrative. But the emotional contract stayed intact. Personal writing, direct connection, a familiar voice. The risk wasn't musical, it was reputational. If the pivot failed, she wouldn't just lose momentum, she'd lose credibility. And credibility takes longer to earn back than success does. But the album didn't just succeed, it reframed her. Genre stopped boxing her in and became a choice. Most people don't understand the move. They think reinvention means burning bridges, starting over, proving something. But the bridge is the asset. You don't destroy it, you upgrade what travels across it. That's why the audience didn't feel abandoned. They felt led. One version of her changed, the identity didn't. But that success created a new problem. If reinvention protects you once, what happens when it becomes part of who you are? Who owns the past? Success creates a new kind of pressure, control. As Taylor Swift's catalog grew, so did its value. And quietly, the real risk shifted. Not through critics, not through trends, but who controlled the value of who she had been and who she was becoming.
A MySpace page. Was MySpace a help?
MySpace is a huge help, and I'm still really
When her original masters were sold, most people focused on the reaction, the headlines, the emotion. But the move that followed mattered more than the sale itself. She didn't protest and move on, she rebuilt the past. Re-recording her catalog wasn't nostalgia, it was control.
Wipe the volunteer or maybe kind of squeeze each other a little bit.
She took songs that already worked and made new versions. Fans didn't need to be persuaded. They chose the versions that felt like they came directly from her. The originals still existed. They just stopped mattering. This move is rare because it requires something most people never build: enough trust to replace your own history. Under pressure, she didn't fight inside the system. She changed what the system rewarded. For most people, the past is fixed. A resume line, a role, a reputation that belongs to someone else now. For her, the past was editable. And this creates an uncomfortable question. If an earlier version of you is still creating value for someone else, what would it look like to reclaim it without starting from zero? Quiet as power. Then came the move that confused everyone who was watching. No rollout, no spectacle, no story of dominance. Folklore arrived quietly, muted visuals, indie collaborators, less hype, less noise. It looked like retreat, but it wasn't. When the usual system stopped working, she didn't force it. She revealed another version of the same identity. Writer first, brand second. The shift lowered exposure while raising legitimacy. Loud success trains people to believe momentum must always look the same. But repeating a winning version too long is how identities become stuck. By proving she could win quietly, Taylor Swift removed her dependence on spectacle. That's real power, the ability to downshift without disappearing. But power at this level isn't spontaneous. It's engineered. And when reinvention becomes reliable, rest starts to look like risk. The cost of control. No identity grows without strain. The same discipline that makes reinvention safe can make stillness feel dangerous. When evolution becomes expected, stopping invites speculation. Every pause turns into a theory. Every silence gets filled by someone else. This is where many people break. They keep moving because motion feels safer than standing still, or they freeze, waiting for clarity that never arrives. Taylor Swift avoids collapse by engineering change. She doesn't abandon past versions, she archives them. Each era stays accessible, respected, still working. But the pressure doesn't disappear. Control protects what you've built, but it also raises the cost of every mistake. And this leads directly to the shift most people never make. The only identity that grows. Taylor Swift doesn't reinvent by rejecting her past. She reinvents by controlling it. She doesn't treat change as rebellion, she treats it as management. The identity that fails most people is the loyal one, the version that stays consistent to prove integrity, that waits until change is forced, that treats reinvention like an admission of failure. But loyalty to an outdated identity doesn't protect you. It only delays the moment someone else decides what you're worth. The alternative is quieter. Identity stays stable at the core, flexible at the edges. That's the uncomfortable reality. You don't lose stability by evolving. You lose it by staying loyal to a version of yourself the world has already outgrown. Most underperformance isn't about effort. It's about timing. And once that becomes clear, the story stops being about change and starts being about control. Who decides when you're done? This story was never about music or fame. It was about how success survives change without losing trust. Once you recognize that pattern, you start to see it everywhere. Careers, companies, people who seem to move effortlessly while others get left behind. The difference isn't talent, it's who gets to decide when an identity evolves. If this way of thinking about wealth resonates, your next insight with the Wealth Project is right here on your screen.